To answer these questions, here in the studio joining us, we have a sexual psychologist, Zoya Amirin. Good morning, Zoya.
Morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a
Of
while.
course, my pleasure.
Bit of a reunion for you two.
A bit of a reunion, I must say. Yes, okay, let's start with the first question. So, when is it the best time to talk about sex, sexuality, and bodies to our children? And what are the basics, but actually very important to tell our children about?
Okay, that's probably will be shock for most people because it starts on early years, like 3 years old.
Wow.
Because 3 years old kids is actually, they already understand the differences between gender.
Right.
You know, for instance, like, if there's an object online, that will be most likely, the driver will be like a man, you know. And if you go to the hospital, the nurse most likely will be like women, or you know, all the gender kind of type work and stuff like that. So they already understand that.
Right.
So on the age of 3, the kids is already can tell the difference and understanding about their body, and they're curious about the differences between them and the other person, like different sexes.
Right.
So I forget, there's a movie that's actually the kids, it's like I remember the actress is like Liv Tyler, I guess.
Right.
And at a time that the kids is like try to understand about their body, and the kids is like there's one girl like 3 years or 4 years something, and the other boys, and it's like, what's the difference between you and me? I don't know, let's see. And they open their pants and they like see each other, like, oh, you look a little bit longer and you're just like this. And they just like, they're discussing about the differences. And the parents was like so shocked and was like, oh my God.
That's a typical reaction from
That's
parents,
a typical
right?
reaction. So
but it shouldn't be like that, should it?
Yeah, the 3 years old, the sexuality, it's like help them to understand their body according to their biological age.
Right.
That's the most important thing. So you can teach the kids in the sex education kind of term is understanding about consent.
Right.
For instance, we are as a parents, when we talk to our kids, we try to say like, you know, asking consent, like, oh, excuse me, can mommy open your pants because you wanna, you know, take number 2 or number 1, you know, when you go to the toilets, and we try to exchange their clothes and stuff like that. And every time we touch them, we ask for their consent.
Interesting.
If I can share my own experience, my first child is a daughter. She's 7 years old now. We first, and I never thought of it as sex ed, but we first started having a conversation like this was at age 4. Why 4? Because it was the first time she would ever be separated from us and under the care or guidance of someone else. She was entering kindergarten at the time, TKA, and they would have activities such as swimming at school. So I remember the conversation my wife and I had with her is that when she would come home, we'd be, who helped you change out of your bathing suit? Did anyone touch you in certain areas that you shouldn't? And she would answer us very frankly, because kids don't lie at that age. And we wanted to, you know, I thought it was just us being paranoid, because I just wanted to make sure that she was under proper care and guidance, because when it comes to caregivers, most of them are great, but you have to just make sure that your kids are under proper guidance.
You cannot be too careful about something like that. You're not being paranoid, actually. What you do is actually teach the kids to have like a body authority.
Yes.
Body authority.
Yeah, because your body, it's a monarchy, right? It's not a democracy.
Right.
You know, nobody can discuss about how you can, you know, they can touch you. It's about like, if you're not comfortable, then it's not okay.
Right.
Okay. So we actually explained that if you're not comfortable, it's not okay.
My wife completely explained that as well. She's like, make sure that what you do is you can do it yourself. You can change certain parts yourself. If they want to help you put on your dress, that's fine. But you know, changing from your bathing suit into your innerwear, you already know how to do that yourself. Make sure you do that yourself. You don't need anybody around to do that. Go in the change room. And if I can move back a little bit earlier to when, you know, when kids are babies and toddlers, they tend to shower with their parents. Like I sometimes shower with my kids, but I have a boy as well. But with my daughter, at a specific age where she was turning 3, I taught her it would be no longer okay to shower with me, but shower with your mother instead. So that was the other experience I had. So I was just saying all that to explain that, 3 or 4 is actually the time that we started to explain to them about their bodies and about sexuality.
Well, you seem to be on the right track, Paul.
No, I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. I just felt, hey, you're getting a little older now. Stop coming into the shower when I'm in here.
So what is the best way to explain about sexuality to children? I mean, it's like, do we have to simplify our language? Because sometimes there are parents who actually use terminology that is not actually the medical terminology. They change it to pee pee wee wee. You know, it's like
birds and bees.
birds and bees, right? It's like, how do you explain it? And it's like, when is the right time? It's like when they're playing, you know, it's like this can be quite awkward sometimes for some parents. Maybe not Paul because he's great.
No, we use all the technical terms. The D and the P word, we teach them just so they know. But
yeah, it's better to use like a medical or universal terms like a penis and vagina and stuff like that, because if you use the bird and the bee kind of things, it will it's only make it difficult for the kids if they're, knock on wood, something happened.
Right.
You know, for instance, like there's a one case that actually for some people it's pretty funny. For me, it was like it's scary because there's a girls actually say like saying that the genitals she call it bees, right?
Okay.
And there's the security because somebody like touching the genitals, and she was like scared.
Okay.
She's running to the security. It's like, oh my bee was actually hurt. I was like, somebody hurt you, like the bee stung you, or stuff like that, and
makes it confusing.
it was like a lot of confusing, and until like I actually been called by the school and the teachers, and we talked. It's like, oh, she's being harassed.
Yeah.
You know, let's not use all the weird things, and especially for Indonesian, you know, most of you using words like kemaluan. You know, please don't use that, because why we have to be ashamed of our genitals?
Right.
That's great.
That's
that was a
very
thing. Is that a thing?
words matters, you know, words matters.
Of course.
As if that you have to be ashamed
Right.
of your genitals, and that's weird, right?
Yeah, no.
Because if you don't have genitals, you are not normals.
Yeah.
So when you have normals, why you have to be ashamed of your genitals? This is part of the sex education, actually.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when people try to be like cover it up, say it in a nice way, but they actually using nursery name or even a shame kind of things to your genitals, it teach your kids, you know, you have to be ashamed of your sexuality. You not have. It's okay for you to not comfortable with your sexuality and your genitals.
I didn't even know the kemaluan or shameful is a thing, but reason we use technical terms is because I don't want to take the seriousness out of it. Like, you know, like you have to, these things are more serious. If you call it like funny, cute names, then kids might think it's not take it seriously. I think that's part of it.
For instance, like when you call it like this is the right hand and left hand and this is right foot, you know, if you mention all the body part and suddenly when it's come to genitals, you mention like funny names, the kids will psychologically, unconsciously also thinking like there's something funny about it, there's something unusual about it.
Or funny, that's not...
Just like call it by their name.
Just say what
call it by their name. You mentioned about sex education. I mean, I still remember, well, I can barely remember actually receiving any sex education at school. And when I did, I think it was more like a biology lesson.
I was just explaining to Zoya, where I went to school in Canada and we had... Sex education was part of phys ed. Phys ed is sports, right? So we had about 80% of our stuff was, you know, playing sports like basketball, volleyball, all that stuff. But 20% was in class, and part of that 20% would be sex education. And
was that biology lesson like as well?
There was a lot of technical stuff that we learned, but there was a lot of practical stuff. And I believe I was just having a conversation with Zoya, and I believe that part of the reason is people at that age, kids at that age, were just hitting puberty, and I think we have to, you know, face the fact that premarital sex does happen. Kids start to get sexually active at a certain age, and I think that's why they chose that age to teach us about safe sex as well, about contraceptions and things of that sort. So
it's not really common actually in Indonesia.
No, I was asking. It's really
so
weird.
what is the sex education in Indonesia? And if it's not good enough so far, how should we transform it?
Okay, so I think it's like 2019 is like a year before pandemic. I remember that I'm working together with the Ministry of Education, try to do something about the sex education and how to prevent bullying. You know, it's very, very, very complicated because we make a book and a video, like a YouTube video, to help kids because the thing is with us as an educators, I don't want to scare the kids, you know, by using like, oh, you're gonna get like I don't know, like a STD or something, you know,
Gonorrhea
or you know, all the scare stuff like that. But I want them to realize that, because when we scare them, and they just only gonna be like scared about the sexuality, and we don't want it. We want them to embracing it.
Pull away. Yeah.
One day that you will get married. You will, you know, it's not naturally you understand that, but you have to figure it out. You know, understand your sexuality, your body, and stuff like that. So it was kind of tricky, yeah. But we try to make from a start sending it to all the public school in Indonesia. But I know it's a very, very, very small step, because most likely if I'm being invited as a sex educator in a school, most likely it's in a Catholic school.
Yes.
You know, it's or in a private schools.
Yes.
I'm sorry, is there not a standard right now as in regards to sex education?
Not yet. Not yet.
So it's up. So private schools do it because they want it.
Yeah, most like private school, they invite me like personally and stuff like that. So the Ministry of Education tried to doing it using a videos and a book and stuff like that. And well, we have to start somewhere, right?
Yeah. What should be included in the new sex education?
The thing is, I prefer if it's doing an extracurricular kind of way instead of in the curriculum. Because when you put in a curriculum, it means that you have to put a mark in it, right? So it's like, oh, so Marisa is actually like 8 and I'm only 7. It means that you sexually understand more than I do.
Oh, like grading system.
That is weird.
It's strange.
It's weird,
That
right?
is weird.
So your sex education, like, what's your grade? I'm A. Oh, I'm B. So what it means?
Yeah.
That is
well, we did
correct.
that. We did have tests as part of it on our knowledge as well.
Yeah.
We did receive marks like for our tests.
Yeah, but you know, in Indonesia, once you put a mark like that, so they put like in a number. So is that really achieving the target that people need to be aware about their body and their sexuality? Because the real sex education is not about like bragging about your sex life.
No.
You know, it's about understanding your sexuality according to your biological age.
Yes.
It's the psychosexual development that you need to grasp. Yeah, for instance, like if you are 3 and you're 13, or you're 33, or you're like 50, it's a different stage that you need to understand about your sexuality.
Wow.
It's very dynamic. We always have to learn, you know, from birth to death. We are, as a human, we have our sexuality, and we need to understand that every different stage of age.
Wow, I did not know that. I thought I've stopped learning. I need to relearn about sexuality again and again, because that's true actually, because our bodies change, right?
And people change. We're constantly evolving as well. There's always more to learn.
And we always want to be connected with other people sexually, right?
Yeah.
You know, whatever that your status, married, not married, we need to understand about our sexuality, like in every stage of our biological age.
Yeah, and I would argue as well that, you know, before kids even learn about this in school, the best place to learn is at home, because that way, whatever they start learning in school, they're somewhat more prepared for it. So us, as parents, our roles are quite important in this.
Yes.
And who would you say would play a more important role, and does it depend on the gender of the child? For example, about teaching terms with my daughter. My wife came up with that. She's like, no, we're going to teach her like the actual word for it. Vagina is a vagina. We're going to tell her what it is, because she owns one.
I agree.
And I think she felt more comfortable being the segue to open a lot of these conversations as opposed to me. But I wonder when my boy gets a little older whether I'm going to be the one, because he's a boy. What do you
it's gender-based.
Yeah, maybe. Is it?
Well, actually, unless you are single parents, it's I prefer if you are, you know, the father with the boys and the mother with the daughter. Why? Because you don't have to be sexologist like me to teach them. You can teach them how you handle things, sexuality, you know, all the things that you've been through. For instance, during puberty, the hardest part is how to teach a man to handle a lot of imagination during the reproductive stuff. It was so hard for men to being a good person, not thinking about sexuality in the snap of a finger, and how to handle it, how to be calm in the storm of like crazy idea in their mind. They need their father, because their father been through that.
Right.
You
That
know?
is so true.
Yeah.
You know,
like-
when we like having our menstrual period, how we
Yes.
face society, like, oh, you know, that you have a secondary sexuality that, is that comfortable for you to like, you know, grow a pair of, you know, your breasts
Yes,
different.
yes.
For boys, the muscles and the voice change.
Right.
That the parents been through. We've been through the same thing. And how to handle all the social pressure. I know the time is actually different, but help them to get through to understand that, hey, this is normal, you know.
Help them to understand.
Relatable.
Yeah.
That we need to underline that, to help them to understand.
Because I think if a child can, if we can relate to the child by saying, hey, I know what you're going through because I went through this and this must be what you're going through, I think they're a lot more likely to open up to us as well if they're having problems dealing with it.
Yeah.
You know,
But what if you have children who are a little bit more guarded? Like, for example, Paul is saying, hey, son, I'm ready if you want to talk about sexuality.
like, Daddy, I'm 2 years old.
Or, you know, in the future, like 10 years from now,
Right.
and he'd be like, Dad, no, ew, that's gross.
embarrassing, yeah.
I know, right?
So how do you
Or like
open
the
that up?
American Pie. Do you remember
Yes,
the American Pie the first? I think this is our generation kind of movie,
Yeah,
right? When the parents was like, kids, I need to teach about this, and they're like, awkward dad.
Yeah,
you know?
it's like, so how do you
How do you
know,
break
open
that barrier?
Exactly.
Okay.
When they're like, no, I don't want to talk about it. Bye. You know.
Start with something simple like you need to be agree with your spouse. Yeah, you know, either you're divorced or you're not. You need to be agree like on what age that it's okay for them to go dating.
Okay.
Oh.
How to choose a good, you know, a good boyfriend or girlfriend.
My daughter's case, never. No, I'm just kidding.
Every dad says that, right?
True. No, I'm already preparing myself from now. I know it's coming eventually.
Yeah, you need to talk with your spouse first, you know, about the agreement of that. Because, you know, every time I teach a sex education and the kids will ask stuff like this, like, oh, okay, so what a good age for us, you know, for go, you know, dating, to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. I was like, you need to ask your parents. Because, and you need to give an explanation, just like, because I say so, please don't say that.
Yes.
Right.
Explain to them, give them an understanding, like, you know, I'm nervous, you know, we need to be vulnerable to our kids, because our kids need to see that, you know, you're struggling too to taking care of them.
Yes.
If not, you're gonna be like acting out of fear instead of out of love.
Yes.
You need to teach them, like, you know, it's very nervous for me if you're dating somebody else, you know, and nobody will be good enough for my daughter or for my, you know, for my son, whatever. But can we trust you? So you sharing trust, like, okay, if I trust you like this, for instance, when we're talking in the VIP room, right, and it was like, so you want your kids not to abuse your trust, you know, and stuff like that. You need to discuss with them, like, okay, we are comfortable to letting you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend if you're responsible, for instance, I don't know, sholat lima waktu, whatever,
Or
you
you
know,
can follow
or go
your
to
curfew,
church,
or-
or curfew, or, you know, doing your homework.
Correct.
If you do all the little things that show that you are a responsible person,
Can be trusted.
I think we can trust you. Like, okay, you can go to the movie, but with chaperone first, you know.
Sure.
Right.
You know, not doing things like only two of you.
Yeah.
I think the real dating will be like when you're like finished, when you are in college. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's according to your religion, you know,
yes,
your
your
values.
beliefs, yes.
Exactly.
You know, whatever that you believe, put it in there. So sex education is not a tutorial to having sex.
Right.
Literally, because people, when they hear sex education,
Yes.
as if it's just a tutorial,
Is that what they think?
most people in
Well,
Indonesia,
it's the word
that I
itself,
know-
right? Some people, when you think
Interesting.
sex, you don't think, oh, is it gender, male or female? Because that's actually what the word means. But sex, oh my gosh, it must be some action,
Right.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, it's tutorial. It's like, well, if you are married and you have like a couple counseling with me and you need that, yeah, well, I can teach and give that skill, you know, to married couple, but not to kids. Like, why?
No, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so the underlining of sex education when you have a kids like before they are like under 15, it's consent. especially when they're 3 years old, you know, when they get used to consent, when their parents even ask consent for touching them. You know, can I touch you? Or, you know, don't be like most people in Indonesia, where they see a little kids and actually cute and just like, oh, and they just squeeze their cheek.
Or sometimes, Zoya, that I find very disturbing, but this often happens, I think. The parent asks the kid to kiss the friend of the parents. It's like, kiss that uncle or kiss that auntie. Yeah, you didn't grow up here, but it's like...
That's weird.
It
right?
is.
Right, it's weird.
Right. I find it like, why would you want to do that and teach your kids to do that?
And the worst part, sometimes the mother bribed them, the mother or the father bribed them, like, if you kiss the uncle, if you hug uncle or auntie, then mommy will give you cookies.
No!
Right? Oh, in Indonesia,
What purpose though? To impress the uncle or whatever?
out of sopan santun. It's a courtesy, you know. It's a courtesy, like, oh my kids are like, this is a mommy friend, this is daddy friend, so it's okay for you to do this. No, it's not okay,
It's
parents.
not okay.
It's not okay. That you need to ask they're comfortable. If they're not comfortable with their body to hug another person, or even the kid is super cute and squeezable, please ask their consent. Like, can I hug you?
Right.
You're so cute and I miss you, you know. Can auntie hug you? And if they say yes, then hug. If they say like, no, I'm not okay.
Then don't force.
Can we do high five or, you know, fist bump? You know, just don't force them. Like, why?
This is interesting.
I think most people do that these days anyway. They'll ask the kid themselves, like, hey, can I have a hug? You know what I mean?
And not really common in Indonesia.
Right. Maybe the older days.
No, it's fait accompli usually.
Hey, silver linings of COVID, huh? My kid's not kissing or hugging anymore these days, right?
That's why.
Yeah, you brought up some really good points. I really wish we had more time. There's so much more to talk.
I know, right? Well, I think one of the, or two of the important points that we can highlight is that consent.
Absolutely.
And also teaching our kids body authority.
Yes.
Right? It's like nobody touches you but yourself because it's your authority. Your body is your authority. If somebody wants to touch you, it means that they have to ask for your permission, and then you decide whether it's a yes or a no.
If the kids, like, before they are 7, this is going to be a false alarm. For instance, because you already teach them like how to, you know, have a body authority and consent. Sometimes they come home like, mommy, daddy, somebody touch me.
Right.
You know, I don't like when somebody touch me. Like, and we are just so nervous. Like, okay, what's wrong? They just pinch me here. Don't say like, oh, don't be so dramatic. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. How do you feel about that? Oh, you're not okay. Okay, good. It means whatever that you teach them, it works.
Yeah, because actually that is still part of it. You know, that is still owning control of your own body. Hey, if you don't want somebody to pinch you, well, then you have every right. Absolutely. Great points. I'm glad that that's what we got out of it, because I think a lot of us parents, and I know maybe not me with my particular situation, but there are a lot of parents out there that feel like they're the ones that should control their kids, and I think we should let our kids have more control.
Yeah, well, thank you so much,
you.
Zoya, for sharing. It's always a pleasure to be able to hear your knowledge and insights around this issue. I hope to see you again soon.
Yes.
Likewise.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right.